Well, anytime you can advance in tournament play, you count your blessings. We played particularly well, I thought, in the last 8 minutes of the game, and our rebounding against Weber State was really good from start to finish. So we have a tough opponent on our hands, a team that's battle-tested, a team with veterans from a year ago in their championship game run. And so we know what we're up against, and we have to be up to the challenge.
Start down here on the left.
Hey, Chris. James Farr seemed like kind of a project for you guys when he first got there, and I was wondering if you could talk about his kind of development to this point, especially now he's become almost kind of a go-to scorer.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I don't know if people that don't follow our program very closely can appreciate how far he's come. When he first arrived at Xavier, he tied everything into how he shot the ball from the three-point line. He fancied himself as a pick-and-pop jump shooter, and if that wasn't falling, he just sort of hung his head. And whether it's how terrific of a rebounder he's become at both ends of the floor, his ability to score in the low post. Even a year ago, he wasn't very comfortable scoring with his back to the basket. And, we just asked him to sort of check himself and figure out ways where he could be effective around the basket. And he worked night and day with Mike Peace, our assistant coach. And I think he got a lot of confidence in our first scrimmage, our first and only scrimmage against Illinois early in the year. They have Mike Thorne, who's a terrific fifth-year guy. And James scored, I think, on back-to-back-to-back possessions in that scrimmage. And, at the time where the scrimmage was sort of nip and tuck. And I think from that point forward, he really felt like he could score in the low block. And I just have seen his confidence grow and grow and grow. And he's sort of taken that jump shot and putting it and has put it deep in his back pocket. And really our team has benefited because of his ability to rebound, score in the low post, and just be a presence underneath.
Next question's on the aisle.
Coach, how much does pace matter in a game like tomorrow's game where you guys obviously play up and down, and as indicated by their last game, they're more grinded out?
Yeah, hopefully that plays into our big guys' hands because from what I understand, they're really slow. So since the pace is what it is, we're just going to have to play that way. You try to speed teams up. Wisconsin isn't as slow as one may think. They're going to be opportunistic in transition. But it's a basketball game. Whether there's 30 possessions or 70 possessions, we have to put the ball in the basket more than they do.
To stay there, and then we're here.
What have the last 12 hours been like for you in terms of just kind of regrouping and starting to study Wisconsin and getting the team kind of ready for the next game?
A little hectic, but I have a great coaching staff. Our assistant coaches, probably like every other team in the tournament, have done advanced scouting. Also really had a Cliff's Notes version of what Wisconsin or Pittsburgh presented. And so we met in my room last night, watched film for a couple hours, and then started back up this morning, and then started to feed some of that information to our players around breakfast time.
Chris, do you know Greg Gard at all? Do you have any kind of appreciation for the job he's done, taking over for Coach Ryan?
He's done a terrific job, and I don't have to know Greg that well to see that. And I know that a lot was made of all the pieces that Wisconsin lost from a year ago, and they didn't have necessarily the non-conference start that Badger fans were probably used to or even expecting because of so much success that Coach Ryan's had. But it's been really impressive to see the growth of this year's team with some younger players. Obviously, Greg earning the job before the season was over says a lot about the job he did. So from afar, I'm happy because anytime you have an assistant coach in a program that has dedicated their entire professional life, for that program. I mean, he's been there for such a long time. It's really good to see because a lot of times assistant coaches, all they need is a shot. They just need a chance. And a lot of times what keeps them back is that experience. It's hard. If you don't get a shot, how do you get experience? So I'm really happy for him. Obviously a big-time job, but he's proven so far that he certainly more than able.
Right here in front, Chris.
Chris, are there programs that you have modeled yours after? I mean, we're talking about Wisconsin. They've obviously had a long run of success, depending. And the new guy steps in, he just kind of keeps it going. Are there programs in the country that you have looked at and said, this is how kind of we want to do things?
I say on the defensive side of the ball, years ago, we decided to implement more of a pack line system. There are some wrinkles between, what Wisconsin traditionally did under Coach Bennett, what Tony Bennett does at Virginia, and maybe what we do at Xavier. But, I think as a coach, you're a little bit of everybody you come across that you either work with or play for. There's not necessarily a program that we model ourselves after, I wouldn't say, but, we're all stealers, so to speak, in this business, and we steal little things from one another.
Down here.
Coach, a general question for you. I don't know how many other scores you look at over the weekend, but any thoughts on why there seems to be so many upsets this year?
I think there's upsets every year. I think maybe the gap, between 2 and 15, 3 and 14, maybe isn't as drastic as it once was. There are a lot of one and dones. I think also you have college players now that for years, because of AAU basketball, have competed against one another since they were in third grade all the way up to entering college. A lot of these guys at this stage know one another. There are a lot of players that, in my locker room, when we go over another team's scouting report, I'll look out there and say, well, Miles Davis, he played with Derek Gordon at Seton Hall, for instance. He played against Isaiah Whitehead, and it's like all these kids who have become young men know one another and grow up against one another. And, the more familiarity you have, the more often that you've played against players around the country, the more you belong. It's like when you play basketball with your older brother growing up. You can beat your older brother. I mean, he's your older brother. You just punch him in the stomach a couple times, so you're used to him.
Right here.
Coach, Xavier fans were out here.
I'm sorry?
Xavier fans were out here yesterday.
No.
They were definitely out here.
No. Xavier.
Xavier. Excuse
Xavier,
me.
yeah.
Xavier.
Just like xylophone.
Just like xylophone.
Yes.
Xavier fans
Gotta
were out
get the
here
word
yesterday. But there was definitely a sea of red when Wisconsin was playing. Do you guys plan to treat this game like a road game, and how do you plan to counteract what could be a very pro-Wisconsin crowd?
We can't worry about the crowd. I mean, I don't know how we would counteract it anyway other than, stopping them from coming in the building somehow. So, our contingent will be very loud. I think we'll have more fans on a Sunday than maybe a Friday. But, we're going to business as usual. We just got to get off to a good start, play our brand of basketball, and not worry about the crowd. We've been pretty good on the road all year.
Nigel Hayes didn't have maybe a game yesterday that's indicative of how he's been all season, but can you speak about him and maybe some of the other challenges that Wisconsin presents?
Well, first of all, he's very experienced. They've utilized him a little bit more at the 3 this year as opposed to the 4 a year ago. But it hasn't made him any less effective. They certainly at times will play him at the 4. In their offense, they have multiple players that will post. He's a terrific passer. Besides his passing ability, his ability to draw fouls concerns us. So we have to do a great job of defending him, both on the perimeter and the post without fouling. His shooting performance yesterday was probably one he'd like to forget, but you are who you are on the back of your baseball card. We know what his percentage is. We know that the amount of times he shoots the ball from the three-point line and gets to the foul line. So he's a big challenge. He's an all Big Ten performer. We understand that. And then, Ethan Happ is a guy that maybe not a lot of people knew about coming into the year because he redshirted. Big Ten Freshman of the Year. He's got incredible footwork for such a young player at this level. He go right hand, left hand. He has a great feel for how to use his body and his positioning. So he's a challenge. And then again, when you play against a Big Ten opponent, you're not going to have stiffs at the 2 guard, the small forward. You're going to go against players that are very, very high caliber, high quality, and again, a really disciplined system, a disciplined style of play on both ends of the floor.